And now, pink slips for the President's Jobs Council. Welcome, everyone. I'm Eric Boling in for Neil Cavuto, and this is Your World. And one day after learning the economy is shrinking, news today that the job market is struggling. Weekly jobless claims jumping by 38,000. Democrats say it's because federal spending is drying up. To Craig Smith, who says that argument is all wet. Craig, you know what? I think I'm going to agree with the Democrats. Federal spending is drying up. Federal spending was down, and look what happened.
Well, thankfully, federal spending is stopping, because look at everything that they've been doing, Eric. None of it's been working. And when you start to think this whole thing through, you watch. They're going to blame it on Bush or blame it on the Republicans, and they're going to say this was all part of the sequester deal. People were panicked going into the end of the year. They thought the sequestration was going to go into play, where they were going to go off the fiscal cliff, and everybody stopped spending. But you know as well as I do, Eric, the seeds of the last quarter's GDP were sown in the summer of 2011, when President Obama put politics ahead of our national security and any potential future economic growth. It's ridiculous, and it should be exposed.
And growth is that's the most important word that you said right there, Craig. Yes, because when the economy doesn't grow, you have no way of digging yourself out of the ditch, the $16.5 trillion ditch we've put ourselves in. Here was my point, though. If the government stops spending, if the economy is so weak that when the government does stop spending, it goes into a negative growth or a recessionary period, that's not a sign of a healthy economy.
No, I agree with you. But keep in mind, what I'm hoping now, Eric, that we see a little bit of stability, at least till 2014 elections. We know that that people over $200,000 a year are going to pay 4.5% more in taxes. We know there's certain stability. Now, let's hope we get through this debt ceiling crisis. And if we do, then I think you'll see the private sector start to invest. If there's one thing this president's going to be known for, is he's all over the social issues, guns and gay marriage and all, health care. But he's done nothing to help this economy. And when you look at what Jack Lew and Rob Neighbors and Gene Sperling, all those guys did in the summer of 2011, are you shocked, Eric, that we've had this anemic recovery? And I would argue we're not even in a recovery. We're in a recession.
Well, one more quarter and we're in a technical recession as well. One more quarter of negative. But again, let's talk about this for a little bit. So what we really need is growth to come back into the economy. For me, Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, they said let people keep more of their own money, and then people will invest in their businesses, or they'll invest in themselves. They'll go out to dinner. They'll go to a movie. That's economic growth.
You're absolutely correct. And look, the numbers are clear. If we were growing at 3 to 4, maybe say 5%, which is not out of the realm of possibility, it happened under Ronald Reagan, we could grow our way out of this problem. Eric, you know as well as I do, you're not going to be able to tax your way out of this. Sure. You're not going to be able to cut your way out of this. We've got to create growth. Now, how do we create growth? Unfortunately, the head of the IMF told us, we need confidence. We need confidence in our currency. We need confidence in legislation coming out of Washington, D.C. You know from Fox Business, the balance sheets look very good in corporate America right now. Mm-hmm. If they had some stability from a government and people had money to spend, we grow our way right out of this
More
mess.
money to spend, more things to buy, more economic activity. Craig, let's switch gears a little bit today. We found out that the president has disbanded his Jobs Council after a couple of years. In 2011, it met 3 times. In 2012, it met all of once. So what is it? Is it that the economy is getting better, the job market's getting better, or now that he doesn't face another re-election, he's not too worried about that?
I think your last choice, and think about it. How do you keep a jobs council together when the head of it, Jeff Emhelt, who runs General Electric, is sending jobs over to China? It gets rather embarrassing at a certain point. Eric, Mr. Obama may be a wonderful man. I don't know. I've never met him personally. But he doesn't understand the first thing of economics. He's going to go down in history as the worst economics president we've ever had. The people around him have given him bad information. Can you imagine what Paul Kruger must be saying over at New York Times? See, I told you, spend another trillion, spend another $2 trillion, and that way we'll spend our way out of this.
You've never been able to do that.
It's not going to happen.
But stay on the Jobs Council for a second. They actually came up with some decent ideas, trying to figure out ways to promote more travel to America, try and figure out ways to create economic activity in America. Not a bad idea, not a bad group. Why would you even bother disbanding it? Was it taking up too much of his time?
Well, yeah, it could have gotten involved. It could have messed up his golf schedule. But keep in mind, he did the same thing with Bol Simpson. He brings this group together. They come up with great recommendations. And he says, we'll talk about it later. I got more important things to deal with. And that's what's happened. They love to have meetings. They love to discuss the issues. And corporate America did, you're right, Eric, came up with some very good suggestions how to bring people back to work and start to grow the economy. The president's too busy to deal with it. He now has gun control he has to work on. He now has gay marriage that he needs to work on, which is far more important than getting the 7.8% of our workforce back to work, paying taxes, creating growth in the economy, which you and I both know is what we need right now.
Right, and we're going to have to leave it there, but we will be watching tomorrow morning for the monthly unemployment number. We'll find out if it moves from 7.8%. Craig Smith, thank you very much.
Thanks, Eric. Good.